Prison bars, a crying child, and the dream couple shattered right inside a courtroom. Nobody saw this coming. Imagine trading tropical sun for a fluorescent-lit cell, all because love stories on reality TV never quite end the way the promos promise. I need to ask, if the internet's favorite cross-border couple can fall apart this spectacularly, what hope is there for the rest of us? Everyone remembers when Patrick and Thaís showed off their jet-set romance on TV. Sun-kissed, Instagram perfect. Even the grumpy relatives back home couldn't shatter their honeymoon energy. They laughed off prying cameras, waved away those 90-day curse rumors, and sold the world a glossy package: Brazilian beaches, suburban Nevada, one adorable baby, new beginnings, open suitcases, and bold predictions. You could almost forget the parents squinting suspiciously across the dinner table, or the side eye when someone asked about bank accounts. There was bubbly on the wedding night and a shiny K, one visa, two people who seemed to rewrite the franchise playbook from scandal to solid. But then, the fairy tale jumped the rails. Blink and the smiles were gone. Everything that felt secure, a bright house, matching pajamas, that perfect Instagram grid, blew up in ways nobody could reconstruct even with all the screenshots in the world. People watching this show have seen drama before, but nothing hits harder than when the cameras turn off and you realize the plot is not getting tidied up by clever editing. Was it always doomed, or did the warning signs go ignored until the entire world was watching them self-destruct? It's easy to scroll past their old posts now, with captions about forever and happy family, but underneath, cracks were spreading like spiderwebs across the surface. There's a real lesson here. On TV, you know where the act breaks are, but in real life, no one calls cut before everything implodes. What tipped the balance? Was it pressure from the spotlight, money stress, secrets piling up, or the kind of quiet resentment that grows stronger when it has an audience? Some fans called it months ago. Others refused to believe anything could pull apart two people this hungry for a fresh start. The first break didn't look dramatic. It was invisible. A missed call, a cold shoulder, a late-night argument that never quite made it to Instagram stories. Publicly, they doubled down with even bigger declarations. Privately, they were already fighting a losing battle. Take a second to remember how safe things seemed on TLC just last season, when they held hands in the park and promised to always work things out. How quickly that memory morphs when you realize they barely made it to another anniversary. But it was never just about two people. The backdrop was always tilted. One brother camped on the couch, parents calling from overseas, legal worries about who belonged and who didn't, and the stress of figuring out if anyone could be totally honest when the camera red light was always blinking. Tension was waiting in the wings the whole time, quietly flexing in private until it exploded in public. Just imagine the moment when the bubble bursts, not with dramatic music or a scripted season finale, but with lawyers, cops, a toddler in the middle, and a judge forced to draw lines that can't be erased. All those red flags everyone scrolled past, all the little digs and silent treatments, suddenly become evidence, real consequences traded for the ghost of a perfect online life. Nobody behind on their DVR could have predicted it. What really went wrong? What else are they hiding? The curtain's lifting, and this time, the story isn't going to fade out on a happy ending. Handcuffs, shouting, court dates. When a glossy social media couple crashes, the wreckage is always messier than the rumors say. The real explosion wasn't an argument at home. It happened on legal paper, in front of a judge, with tears, receipts, and an entire fandom glued to every update. Patrick and Thaís didn't invite this attention, but they stopped being a private couple the day they signed up for reality TV, and now every secret has become ammunition. The custody fight was never polite. It wasn't about gifts or holidays. It was about who would get to decide bedtime, school drop-offs, who the little one runs to after nightmare. Patrick showed up with financial records, pay stubs, confident smiles, and a pitch of stability, stacked up against every messy screenshot he'd carefully printed and color-coded. Thaís stood in front of the court drained, shaking, still trying to describe how the cameras had changed Patrick, or maybe how the cameras made her doubt herself. By this point, both sides had stopped talking like lovers or teammates. Every message sent looked like it was written for a jury. Empathy wasn't just low, it bottomed out. With every new claim, the other person got colder. Parents get desperate in court, but on TV, every tear looks suspiciously timed and every hug is debated by thousands in comment threads. That's a pressure no relationship can survive. Did jealousy play a role, or was it pure survival? Thaís said isolation in a new country broke her. She missed Brazil, missed support, missed trust. Patrick chalked everything up to betrayal, claiming that secrets about money, travel, and even conversations with family became landmines. Both claimed to be protecting their daughter. Both swore the other was acting out of fear, not love. This is where it gets uncomfortable for everyone watching, because it isn't clear who's right, who's rewriting history, and who's clinging to their last shred of dignity. Was Thaís defending herself, or fueling the chaos? Did Patrick hold it all together too tightly, or did he use control as a shield when things felt out of hand? Watching back, you can spot the moments emotions curdled, when affection gave way to suspicion, and suspicion turned to open warfare. One thing that jumps out from all those text dumps and testimonies is the way small things spiraled. One parent missed a call drop-off time, and everything became a battle for evidence. Every goodnight screenshot, every phone bill, every bank email became evidence to either destroy or defend a reputation. Fans on social media chose sides before the judge even finished reading her notes, and both Patrick and Thaís played to the audience, sometimes to win sympathy, sometimes just to survive another day's headlines. It's not what anyone expected in the early episodes. Who wants to believe that those vacation smiles and late-night dancing could crash into cold accusations about violence, financial abuse, or lies? Did anyone predict that a family argument would require police, lawyers, and child services? Is it possible for two people who shared a bed to end up so far apart they can't even share a conversation? There's a point in every messy split where the story stops being about love, or even about the fight. It turns into a cold campaign for self-protection. Both Patrick and Thaís kept coming up with fresh receipts, texts, screenshots, statement after pleading statement. Both kept managing to put each other on the defensive just when you thought one of them had finally lost. If you're starting to feel exhausted, you're in good company. This saga drained everyone, including the judge. But is the story really finished yet? Someone close to the family stepped forward with a claim that could flip the entire narrative upside down, and the real question now is, what crucial detail are we all missing? Courtrooms look sterile in photos, but inside, they buzz with nerves and grudges, so thick you can't breathe. Fluorescent lights make everyone look sickly, and the only thing sharper than a lawyer's suit is the way every side-eye silently dares someone to slip. This was no different. The family section sat crowded, reporters hovered, and not one seat remained empty when Patrick and Thaís stepped in for what everyone quietly labeled the brawl to end all 90-day brawls. Patrick looked prepared, flanked by his legal team, folders stacked like bricks around him. He kept one hand on a shining stack of what had to be evidence, the other arm around his own mother's shoulder, as if reassurance could be passed down like a family recipe. Thaís walked in glancing at the exits and never at her own lawyers, who whispered and circled her with the nervousness of people who know one wrong statement can stick for years. An interpreter sat close. No one trusted the official translation on its own. Opening arguments felt more like an audition for cable courtroom TV than a custody hearing. Patrick's lawyer wielded receipts, voice trembling with a kind of righteous fury that makes juries nod along. Everything from Venmo transfers to text threads got blown up on big monitors. Every late-night message, every withdrawal, got picked over and spun into a story that made one parent look like a hero, the other like a risk. On Patrick's side, the message was clear. He had money, he had a stable job, and he was the reliable one. No drama, he claimed, until Thaís broke the peace. Thaís' team hit back fast, flipping the narrative so hard the gallery audibly gasped. Their argument swept back to the original purpose. This wasn't about who had more screenshots or a better lawyer. It was about a little girl who couldn't decide which parent needed her more, who barely understood why her world felt different every weekend. Thaís' lawyers leaned hard on emotion. They replayed clips, presented testimony about her role as a mother, and gently pointed out the moments Patrick's control might have shaded into inflexibility. Then the social media machine added 10 layers of chaos. Outside, fans were live-tweeting details, fact-checking in real time, and flooding Instagram with theories before lunch. Sometimes it isn't the lawyers who shape the story. It's the fans warring on Team Patrick or Team Thaís, trying to spin the facts to fit whatever villain or victim they want. Reddit threads piled up with amateur legal advice, and old clips from the show resurfaced to paint loyalty or disloyalty in fluorescent colors. People picked apart every micro-expression, every seat shuffle, every sigh in the courtroom. The feeding frenzy got so wild that half the legal team spent their lunch not eating, but searching their own names to stay ahead of the narrative. Everyone on the internet loves a hero, but almost nobody wants to defend someone caught in a losing streak. Would you stand up for your ex if millions of strangers watched every mistake? Is anyone squeaky clean by the time a custody war goes nuclear? Most of us want to believe we would never end up here, but the line between righteous and reckless is thin when reputations are at stake in front of the entire world. Ask yourself, would you surrender or show every messy receipt if it meant protecting your own child? The real flex in this trial wasn't evidence, it was confidence. Each side kept pushing, not wanting to show fear. Patrick's team moved fast, calling witnesses who seemed to have all the right quotes from old group texts and family dinners. They presented numbers, tried to impress with stability, and every few minutes managed to drag a new private fight into the light. Knowing each ugly detail seared itself into the memory of everyone in the room. But Thaís' strategy was emotional, not logical. Her team carefully built her up as the loving mother exiled from her child's routine, described every hardship she faced coming to a strange country, gave voices to silent sacrifices that no judge could ignore. Receipts, though, became the real language. Statements were easy to claim, but screenshots had timestamps. No one could hide from phone records, messages, or credit card charges submitted into evidence. At the same time, both sides tried spinning simple mistakes as proof of sabotage. Patrick wanted the focus on money, on late bills, on sudden travel. Thaís argued every late-night wire transfer was survival, not sneaky. Here's where the audience at home split too. Half the fans believed every number Patrick waved, half clung to every tearful explanation Thaís gave. Armchair lawyers everywhere typed out judgment, as if they sat on the bench themselves. Nothing in Patrick's testimony left room for doubt. He wanted the judge to see every cent, every moment of steady support, down to daycare pickup times and immunization records. Thaís' statement didn't ask for sympathy, she demanded it, pointing out the isolation, the heavy cultural shift, the risk of being cut off from her only support system. Both sounded stubborn, sure, but were they relentless because that's what you need to be heard in a court full of strangers, or because each saw themselves as the only real protector? The outside world, of course, kept howling. New YouTube takes appeared by the hour. Twitter threads didn't sleep, picking through forgotten clips from their first season, debating who had been honest in confessions, who seemed checked out in those last smiling interviews. TikTok watched for any sign of new court footage, ready to freeze a frame and label one or the other as hero, villain, survivor, or fraud. Nobody neutral survived an opinion poll, and every single update from the court sent waves through group chats and subreddit feeds. Was either strategy working? Hard to know. The judge looked exhausted by lunch, the lawyers' voices stayed clipped, and even the reporters started running out of synonyms for shocking. Still, the tension kept rising. With each break, you saw Thaís physically shrink, bracing for the next attack, while Patrick doubled down, stiff-backed, unreadable, often watching the gallery rather than his lawyers. Then, everything shifted. Patrick's team, feeling confident after a long stretch of favorable testimony, got blindsided when Thaís' lawyers called a last-minute witness. Someone from inside Patrick's old gym, never before seen on camera, stood and calmly testified to a pattern they claimed had stayed hidden behind closed doors. This witness described an exchange that made everyone in the courtroom stop pretending they knew how this story would end. Evidence nobody had expected was presented, The kind of surprise that makes even the most seasoned lawyer rethink their next question. Suddenly, the so-called underdog had the gallery leaning in, social media buzzing, and every reporter bending over their notepad. Whatever certainty existed about who would walk out victorious vanished in that instant. Who has the final trump card, and what else is waiting to come out? That's when everyone realized this game wasn't over. Far from it. It's always easy to join the victory cheers when the verdict lands, but inside that courthouse, victory tastes bitter and loss cuts deeper than any headline will ever admit. Patrick walks out holding the legal paper that names him the custodial parent, everyone firing off congratulations and justice served from their phones. He puts on a brave face, but that smile is stitched with exhaustion and a look that says he'd trade every legal win for just one normal day with his daughter, away from judges, away from eyes that judge the outcome as wins and losses, not as a family cracked wide and scattered for all to see. Thaís stands alone, stunned by everything she's lost. There's no camera ready for that moment, no soft focus, no scripted confession. She went from dressing up for reunion specials and baby showers to a woman watched by officers, waiting in a holding cell, knowing privacy is gone and every move might show up on a blog within minutes. Her fights, desperate or calculated, fall flat now that the court record is stamped and every fan with a favorite side has the receipts to fuel their arguments. Her parents call long distance from Brazil, but can't bridge a continent of shame and regret. Fans erupt in every direction. Some scream relief, grateful that the child has one stable home, convinced Patrick was the right choice all along. Others mourn the ending, blaming a heartless system and a culture that never wanted Thaís to belong. The divides run deep. Reddit threads overflow with detective work. TikTok edits paint both as villains, and live streams dissect every facial twitch from that final hearing. There are even fans who tune out, exhausted by drama fatigue, quietly closing the app and pretending the whole season never happened. But for the ones invested, for the ones who saw a little of themselves in a story about blending families and chasing a second chance in a strange country, the fallout spirals on. While the world debates, the child, always the true innocent, becomes the center of a storm she never chose. Elise is left growing up with questions and fragments, old wedding photos tucked in a box, reminders of a simpler start now tarnished by transcripts and court documents. She'll ask one day about the handcuffs, about the shouting matches never aired on TV, about why phone calls sound uncomfortable and visits are scheduled with exact times. No judge, no parent can promise it will ever make sense. The most devoted fans go back and replay all the seasons, trying to catch those early moments, the little glances, the stiff goodbyes, the quiet hints that all was never quite as happy as the wedding promos made it seem. They point out when tension started, the fights about money, the long silences when Patrick's brother skipped out on chores, the awkward pauses at family dinners. It all feels so obvious with hindsight, like puzzles solved too late. Remember when Thaís left her family in Brazil without a word, taking that huge risk for love and a green card? Was that sacrifice the beginning of the end, or the only move she could make with all the cards stacked against her? When a family implodes in public, the lines are blurred forever. Every tear, every mistake, every sacrifice, captured by the lens, debated by strangers, and never let go until the next scandal pushes it down the feed. The wounds don't close in silence. They fester online, opinions layered over facts, privacy torn up in the rush for likes. This is why these stories matter. They're not just about drama or cheap entertainment. They are warnings about the cost of living life for a camera, about the collateral damage when a marriage breaks where everyone can see, about the stories a child will have to sort through one day when the hashtags fade. Fans who identified with Thaís, anyone who ever sacrificed a hometown or a language for marriage, carry her defeat like a bruise. Their relief, if any comes, is cold. For others, Patrick's smile gives hope that stability can be fought for and won, but the price is written in heartbreak, not headlines. For both sides, the emotional mess will last longer than any trending topic. The drama doesn't stop for the credits. And yet, when the final decision lands and reporters file out, there's one thing everyone seems to overlook: the secrets that never made it into court, the stories scrubbed from social feeds, the unanswered questions that refuse to fade. These gaps leave the story dangerously open. You can feel the tension settle over fans still hungry for the missing piece, the twist that explains everything or turns the whole narrative on its head. Rumors of hidden messages, deleted chats, allies in the friend circles who saw more than anyone ever shared. These are the holes the verdict doesn't fill. There's talk online that someone who never testified is still sitting on proof, a reality that could shift loyalties all over again. Was there one pivotal moment behind the scenes that changed everything? Something neither Patrick nor Thaís dared to confess, fearing it would destroy more than a marriage? The clock keeps ticking as fans hunt for that answer, the thread left dangling that might explain not just who lost, but why. And in the quiet after the gavel drops, the only thing louder than the silence is every voice still asking, what didn't we see? What are they not telling us? And is the fallout really finished, or are we all just waiting for the next explosion? Looking back, the warning signs feel impossible to ignore, but nobody watching in the beginning really wanted the story to end in cold court transcripts and a broken family. It's easy to piece together the arguments and tension when you're scrolling backward with the benefit of hindsight. Every story beats differently when you realize how much got decided not by love, but by fear, distance, and the pressure to prove yourself on camera. The truth is, heartbreak rarely announces its arrival. It sneaks up in missed words, withheld confessions, and one last roll of the dice when you think there might still be a second chance. Maybe some will say this ending was always set in stone, that every TLC couple is only a viral moment away from collapse. But human connection isn't simple enough to script, especially when lives get edited to fit TikTok trends and television slots. Was there a moment when honesty could have saved them, when a different choice would have brought healing instead of a showdown? That's the sort of question that keeps viewers replaying every episode, not for answers, but for closure that even the court couldn't deliver. Their mistakes and missteps weren't new. Lots of couples hide secrets, dismiss doubts, or look for quick fixes when shame or insecurity creeps in. What magnified everything for Patrick and Thaís was the slow erosion of trust under the harsh light of public interest. Trust withers when you keep one eye on the comments, never sure if your next step will get sympathy or scorn. It wasn't only jealousy or money or distance, though all those things played their part. Sometimes survival means saying nothing and letting the silence grow heavy until it's all that's left. If there's one thing this saga underlines, it's the cost of never hitting pause. When boundaries drop, when everything becomes content, nobody gets the safety they need. Add in culture clash, financial stress, old wounds from family, and an audience hungry for receipts, and you have a recipe for disaster, one that plenty of regular couples might recognize, just without the camera crews camped in their living room. But that's not the full picture. Is every fight destined for court? Is every love story doomed to end with sides picked, history weaponized, and kids caught in the middle? Absolutely not. Some couples make new rules. They learn to put up stronger boundaries, to walk away before the explosion, or to choose transparency, real, raw, uncomfortable honesty, long before things fester and blow up. It's not love that destroys people on these shows. It's the silence, the pride, the desperate act of putting on a brave face for fans while falling apart inside. There's a lesson tucked between all the court filings and split-second camera cuts. Boundaries are not only for bad days. Building them early is not selfish, it's survival. Protecting your private worries, owning up to your insecurities, letting the less flattering parts of the story exist without dressing them up for the public. This isn't weakness. It's how people make love last in the real world, where apologies outnumber likes, and where the only plot twist that matters is growing together instead of staging the perfect post. Think about the night Thaís left for America, her father still in the dark, her future wide open but her support system already fractured. Or those tense moments in court where Patrick's stubborn calm made you question whether control was his armor or his undoing. Each choice, big or small, set new patterns. Every refusal to reach out, every tiny retreat, added force to the storm that broke them apart. So, was it inevitable? Not unless you believe trouble always wins when hope starts running thin. Underneath the mess and the memes, this story is a canvas for every person who's ever loved and lost, who's tried to build a new life far from home and wondered if fitting in meant losing yourself. Patrick and Thaís aren't metaphors. They're two people overwhelmed by expectations, scared by the cost of saying the hard truths out loud. The audience saw only fragments, stitched together by editors and court reporters, but those quiet moments, the silent meals, missed calls, ignored texts, were the front lines of the real battle. If anyone needed a reminder, it's this: no amount of outsider opinions can decide who you are as a partner or a parent. The loudest voices don't always tell the truth, and standing up for yourself isn't always neat or graceful. Sometimes it's messy, desperate, full of stumbles, but it's better than letting strangers write your ending for you. Fans will move on to the next scandal, pick apart the next viral fight, but the families inside never truly get the luxury of forgetting. And if you think this chapter is finished, think again. Rumors are starting to churn in the online fan spaces about another couple with secrets nobody imagined, a story so wild it makes Patrick and Thaís look almost tame. If you want jaw-dropping receipts, leaked DMs, stolen watches, in-laws filing reports, then the next saga is already simmering. Because the world of 90 Day spins on chaos, heartbreak, and the kind of hope that refuses to die even after the paperwork is stamped. So before you scroll away, ask yourself, what would you keep hidden if the whole world was watching? And if every secret was a future headline, would you dare to live your truth? Answers aren't easy, but the next episode promises to crack things wide open, and you won't believe which family takes the stage next. This storm was only the beginning.